Hello, you, and thank you so much for clicking play. Honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, in the last 72 hours, there has been a lot of talk in regards to Trump tariffs. Every news station that you switch to seems to be discussing the new tariffs that Trump is imposing left, right, and center. Some people are like, what is going on with this guy? Other people are like, way to go, champ. For instance, in the last 1 hour, I've been watching videos of the protests that have erupted all across the states. Look at this headline. For instance, protesters across the US rally against Trump and Musk, quote, stop destroying America. I've also been watching some discussions of people who are actually in support of the tariffs, and it's like everywhere you look, people are discussing the tariffs. Something else that really shocked everybody is this headline right here. It was posted about 3 hours ago. US to go ahead with imposition of 104% tariff on China. And people are like, we think Trump has gone crazy. Because the thing about Trump is that when he says he will do something, he's actually crazy enough to just do it. Right? And this is the charm. This is the thing that makes you pay attention to Trump. Whether you like him or you don't like him doesn't even matter anymore. You don't even have to have an opinion on him, but you will pay attention to him. Now, myself as a Kenyan, I am an African. I grew up in Kenya. I have been honest about my political allegiance. I've been honest about what I believe in. A lot of Africans, we are raised with conservative values. We are very reserved people. I am not a conservative. I'll be the first to admit. All my nudes or half nudes can be found on the internet. There's nothing conservative about me. All you have to do is go to my Instagram. That is not a conservative woman. I don't have a problem posing in my bikini. I don't have a problem expressing myself and talking openly about what I think. Some might argue that is very progressive of me. But when it comes to me voting, politically speaking, I would have voted for Trump and not for Kamala, because most of my views are right leaning. I believe in a nuclear family, father, mother, children. I believe that the father is the head of the home, not the government. I don't believe in big socialist type governments. I believe in small governments. And I don't believe that the government should be solely in charge of your safety. Therefore, I believe you should be left to be able to defend yourself and to be able to keep your weapons. I believe that there should be free speech. I don't believe in all these censorships that are going on, because the thing about liberals is that they'll tell you you have free speech, but when it comes down to it, you only have free speech as long as you're saying what they like to hear. As soon as you disagree with a so-called liberal, a so-called progressive, you come to see their true colors. You saw what they did during the so-called pandemic, during the COVID time. You saw what they did. These guys literally gagged us. They literally put a mask on our face. They like a muzzle on dog. And I would definitely vote for Trump and not Kamala. I would vote for right-leaning politicians. Again, I'm an African. We believe in religion. We believe in God. In Africa, people are very religious, very conservative, reserved. They love God. They love family, father, mother, children. And we have that hospitality, that reserved hospitality. We are not very progressive. We don't believe in children talking back and so on and so forth. Like I said, as an individual, I'm not very conservative myself. But when it comes to my political views, I'm not a left-winger at all. There are some things on the left that I agree with. There are some policies, because I'm not a person who is a radical. I wouldn't like cancel everybody on the Democratic Party just because, they say a few things that I don't agree with. There are certain things they say that I actually agree with, but when it comes on the bigger scale of things, I would have voted Republican. I make no secret of that. So now that you know who you're listening to, you know where my stand is at, let's just discuss this Trump tariffs. I've been watching some debates of people who are actually in support of the tariffs, going like, way to go, Trump. This is the only way the world respects us as Americans. That is what a section of Americans are saying. And then, of course, I've seen the more communist, Marxist leaning guys saying how bad these tariffs are and how much they're going to affect, especially us Africans. Dear lefties, could you for once not talk on behalf of Africans? Because we can talk for ourselves. I mean, thanks, but no thanks. Okay? So if you're an alien who just got to the planet right now and you've never had the word tariff, let me just try to the best of my ability or the best of my knowledge to explain to you what a tariff is. It's a form of tax, like some kind of duty that is imposed on export and imports. When countries are trading, that duty, that tax that a country has to pay, that's what is called a tariff. And right about now, Trump is not playing. China, 104% tariffs. Trump is like, you're not going to take advantage of America anymore. We are setting the rules, okay? The guy is not playing. So, in my own humble understanding, I will tell you why tariffs can be an advantage, right? I'll just tell you what some of the pros are in my own understanding and what some of the cons, the negative, parts or negative side of tariffs is. I'd start with the negative only so I can end with the positives. I want to end it on a positive note. On the negative side, it's that tariffs bring bad blood, right? Immediately you are hit with tariffs, high taxes, you immediately feel like retaliating, or at least that's what a lot of governments do. It becomes a tit for tat kind of game, and that's what normally leads to countries not talking to one another, right? Trade wars and hardliner stands. So it does bring, bad blood between countries, and trade wars could erupt. And that is what a lot of the people fear because of the global markets, right? And how it will affect the everyday prices of commodities, right? Because people just want to go to the shop and be able to get bread and milk at a reasonable price. But if countries are fighting and there are certain things that you need to trade, then of course it becomes difficult because certain goods have to be rationed, right? Rationing can occur. So that those are some of the negatives, right? And also, in my experience, ever since I left college, every time I saw tariffs being imposed on a country, when I'm very interested in politics and political history, and I study and I look, okay, so what's going to happen? Every time that happens, it's like a breeding ground for corruption. That's when all these lobbying groups come up, all these negotiators, and they say, okay, now we need an ambassador for this and that and the other. And, scratch my back, I'll scratch your back happens a lot. Let's go and negotiate on behalf of this. All these middlemen come up that end up being, a breeding ground for corruption. Basically, that's when money moves under the table, where people say, okay, so if you just don't give us very high tariffs, if you can go and negotiate for cheaper tariffs, we can fund your campaign to be president, for example. So in short, bad actors make a move, and that's how you end up with puppet leaders, puppet presidents, puppet members of parliament, puppet cabinet ministers, and so on and so forth, because everybody is making a move during desperate times. People are basically, getting into desperate measures. So those are some of the negatives that I have observed as far as tariffs are concerned. And now some of the positive things according to my understanding of what tariffs bring. If you listened to Trump's speech the other day, he said, "Make America wealthy again." If you think about why he said that, it's because, you see, tariffs give governments higher revenue. Obviously, an increase on tariffs means that a government will be able to basically make more money. The other good thing about tariffs is that because importing becomes expensive, You have got to now develop your industries locally. And this is what Trump is banking on. He's banking on reviving the old American industries. And it's basically just like the old saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention, right? When you need something, when you're desperate for a commodity which you cannot import, which other countries cannot export to you because of high tariffs, that necessity makes you innovative. You are able to then grow your own industries. So that's another advantage of tariffs. So let me now address the impact of Trump's tariffs on African nations, because that's where my interest is at. As an African, that's what I am mostly concerned about. Critics of Trump are going like, oh, you have killed the developing nations now. You are doing some sort of injustice to the African people. Again, thank you very much, Maxis, for talking on our behalf, but no thanks. We have a mouth of our own. We have a mind of our own. We can talk for ourselves. And the critics are saying that a country such as Lesotho cannot be hit with the kind of tariffs that it's getting hit by. And that Trump, blah, 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 yada, 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 yada. You've read the news, you've seen the news, you've seen the discussions, you've seen the headlines. Can you switch off the TV for a minute? Can you switch off Western media for a minute and just think about this on your own thoughts, without influences of the white man and what he wants you to think? Think for yourself as an African person. Trump is a businessman. He is not a politician. Think about this without emotion. Think about this from a neutral standpoint. The days of Africans being told how to think and how to conduct themselves are long gone. We should not be involved in the politics of America. Right now, the left is using the media to try and turn us against Trump. We should not be for or against Trump, because he is none of our business. Trump is putting America first, and it's about time Africans put Africa first. We need to unite. I keep on saying that. We need to come together. We need to have leaders who are speaking with one voice for the African people. We need to be indifferent to Trump and how he moves. It's about time we really study this board and see how the game is played. We cannot continue playing checkers when Trump is playing chess. Trump is not interested in any other country apart from USA. And we should do the same for ourselves. We should be interested in our nations, our African nations, and our people. We should start creating the industries for ourselves. We should elect leaders who are pro-Africans, who put our industries first. In this case, for instance, when Trump was asked about African countries, you saw that he said, oh, the end game is zero tariffs. We all know that's a bluff, right? So let's just say, okay, fine, we do nothing. You want zero tariff? Okay, zero tariff. But we also want zero tariff. Sit on the table like an equal negotiator. I think Africans have got to rise to the point where we know ourselves. We know what we have. How can we have fear when we are people who have diamond, oil? We have most of the minerals and resources. The raw minerals are on the continent. Even now in the age of AI, they need us. We don't need them. We need to stop exporting without taxing as we should. And we need to stop. We need to stop exporting raw materials where they send them back to us as finished products. Let us learn to grow our own industries. Africa is huge and Africa is rich. We need to stop playing checkers where people are playing chess. Realize that this is how the board is set, and let us know our place on the global markets as Africans.